I'm Luke Summerhays, and I love Mienfoo. Stoats, also known as ermines, are thin, agile mammals found throughout much of the Northern Hemisphere, throughout Russia, Canada, and Europe, even extending south down into the United States and China. Related to otters and weasels, they have fine fur coats, slender bodies, long necks, and sharp little teeth in their pointy little faces. Although they are just as adorable as their relatives, ermines in particular are famous for their hunting prowess. Rarely for small solitary hunters, they routinely take down prey many times their own size. They've been known to use erratic dance-like movements to mesmerize animals before going in for the kill, to chase escaping prey down relentlessly, and even, when surrounded by an abundance of tasty critters, to go on killing sprees. Mienfoo is a fighting-type Pokemon which resembles an anthropomorphic stoat, with colourful fur hanging around its arms and legs to make it look like the outfit which might be worn by a martial arts apprentice. Like a real-life stoat, Mienfoo is strong for its size. Pokemon Shield tells us, "Though small, Mienfoo's temperament is fierce. Any creature that approaches Mienfoo carelessly will be met with a flurry of attacks." It also uses a dance-like technique, reference both to the hunting technique I mentioned earlier, and to the complex routines martial artists memorize and repeat. Pokemon White tells us, "They have mastered elegant combos. As they concentrate, their battle moves become swifter and more precise." And Ultramoon says, "They seclude themselves in the mountains and devote themselves to training. The form of their kicks and chops differs from pack to pack." The name, Mienfoo, combines Ermine, the animal from which this Pokemon draws inspiration, and the Fu of Kung Fu, a term which encompasses many schools of martial arts from China. Similarly, the Japanese name, Kojofu, combines Kung Fu with Okojo, the Japanese name for a stoat or ermine. Pokemon Black tells us, "In fights, they dominate with onslaughts of flowing, continuous attacks. With their sharp claws, they cut enemies." And Black 2 and White 2 say, "It takes pride in the speed at which it can use moves. What it loses in power, it makes up for in quantity." And it's true that Mienfoo is unusually fast and dangerous. In the Little Cup competitive format, in which only unevolved Pokemon up to level 5 are permitted, Mienfoo's speed and attack, along with abilities which allow it to recover health, are perfectly suited, and it's been at the top of that tier for many years. Of course, it's one thing to be the Karate Kid and win a tournament, but it's quite another to be a master. At level 50, Mienfoo makes that leap when it evolves into Mienshao. Mienshao is more exaggeratedly slender and flexible, which suits the ermine origins. It also has long whiskers, which resemble an old master's mustache, and dangling fur, which resemble the sleeves of a changshan, the traditional Chinese formal wear, which is often worn by old masters in classic kung fu films. In fact, Mienshao's sleeves are so long that they even resemble the flowing water sleeves used in dances as part of Chinese opera, which in modern times have also been depicted as a supernatural weapon in kung fu movies. Pokemon White tells us, "They use the long fur on their arms as a whip to strike their opponents." And Black 2 and White 2 tell us, "Using the long fur on its arms like whips, it launches into combo attacks that, once started, no one can stop." Though, of course, such elaborate dress might be impractical in a real fight situation. Fortunately, Mienshao is able to remove them when necessary. Pokemon Sword tells us, "When Mienshao comes across a truly challenging opponent, it will lighten itself by biting off the fur on its arms." Welcome back to Does Andy Remember Gen 5 Pokemon?
And if so, does he have any thoughts about him?
Mienfoo.
Mienfoo is a kung fu Pokemon. I don't know what the mine is. Does it explode sometimes?
No, it's spelled different. It's spelled Chinese.
I thought it was Mienfoo, to be honest.
It might be Mienfoo, to be honest.
Yeah. So now we're stuck. How do we proceed from this point?
Like it?
Do you know any kung fu?
I used to do karate back in the day.
That's alright. Good. Why don't you do it anymore?
Time.
You've got time. Sitting here recording a podcast. You could be.
Yeah, that's why I don't have time to do any
weapon.
more useful things. Because I'm recording podcasts about Pokemon instead.
I've just seen its evolved form. I think that's quite cool. I've got a lot of time for that. Looks elegant, but deadly. And that is a good mix. Although level 50 to evolve is a bit steep for me, so probably not.
That's a bit wild for that one, actually, isn't it?
That's
usually like a real beast for that.
I guess that's it, right? You got to put the work in when you're training. You got to put a lot of work in.
I was inclined to agree with Andy that Mienshao feels like the right pronunciation, rather than Mienshao. However, in the anime and games, where Mienfoo and later Mienshao are used by the Shallow City gym leader Karina, the pronunciation is Mine, as taken from Ermine. The Japanese name for this Pokemon is Kojondo, taking the previous form but adding Do, which means the way. This Pokemon has mastered the way of the Ermine. Similarly, the English name now incorporates Shao, in reference to the Shaolin Temple, where the Kung Fu masters, who many would argue are the greatest in the world, do their training. This is reflected in-game, not just in Mienfoo's domination of Little Cup, but also with several impressive competitive runs for Mienshao, who uses the same Regenerator ability to heal after battle, but also the Reckless ability to boost the attack of the already outrageously strong High Jump Kick. With decent attack and speed, a range of moves to use them, and the U-turn ability to make the most of Regenerator, Mienshao has made impact across the competitive scene. Pokemon Ultra Moon tells us, when Mienshao lets out a bizarre wail, you're in danger. A flurry of kicks and chops too fast to see is about to be unleashed. Longtime Pokemon artist Ken Sugimori said in an interview that Mienfoo and Mienshao were created in response to the complaint that too many fighting-type Pokemon looked like humans. I'm a lover of all Pokemon, but I'll admit that for me the appeal of the series is in being friends with little magical animals, not a bunch of oddly coloured blokes. I'm glad Mienshao exists, and opened the door for an even more varied menagerie down the road. Original music for Luke Loves Pokemon is by Jonathan Cromie. Artwork is by Katie Groves. Funding is provided by listeners at patreon.com/podcastiopodcastius. For just $1 a month, supporters can listen to episodes a week early, and also help cover hosting and fees, making it possible for me to keep making episodes every week. I love hearing from listeners. Get in touch about upcoming Pokemon on Twitter or Facebook at LukeLovesPKMN. Drop a comment if you're watching the video, or a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Coming up are Druddigon and Golett, so please get in touch about those or any other monsters. Even if you don't feel like doing any of that, thank you so much just for listening. I love Mienfoo, and remember, I love you too.